the Fat Man of Batman. I'm Kevin Smith. Okay, obviously not the best way to do this, but I'm in Vancouver finishing up my episode of Supergirl. So I got 2 days left. So I'm not in the Fat Cave. I'm in the temporary Vancouver Fat Cave West. But I got to talk about Doctor Strange, son. Sling ringing shit. Before we get there, though, we got a sponsor, which is always a wondrous thing here. The sponsor, folks, MeUndies. MeUndies.com. MeUndies, as Papa used to say. MeUndies.com, and you sign up for the service, MeUndies.com /fatman, and you'll get a discount. You get underwear once a month. They just send it to your fucking house. You don't have to go out to the store to get it anymore. Fuck the tyranny of shopping for men's underpants or women's underpants. They do both, man. Fuck leaving the house to go get underwear. They'll send you underwear, and look at this shit. They'll send you underwear with dinosaurs on them. Look at that. That's the closest I want to be to a man's crotch in underwear. Well, maybe. I'm curious, but whatever. Look at this. Send it right to your house. Look at this. That's not good enough. You're like, dinosaurs? What am I, child? Donuts, son. Donuts. Look at this. Panty Man. Donuts. And it's not all these, like, what are they, boxers? Could be briefs. Could be briefs like this. Look. Look at this shit. And look, you're like, ooh, gray, that's sleek. But look, Batgirl purple inside. MeUndies.com is a service I believe in, man, because they sent me underpants. Number one, they fit. It's always a big plus in my world. Number two, I had variety. Suddenly I had different colors and stuff. I was wearing this shit. My wife was like, you look like you're trying to fit in and be young. And I am. MeUndies.com /fatman. They'll give you a fat 20% discount, I think it is, for initially joining. Underwear is fantastic, comfy as hell, breathes, and there's a variety, man. I used to be a one underwear color man, just like my drawers look like my closets with nothing but the same color underwear. Now, a rainbow of underwear all over my face, neck, and chest. That's for you bear lovers out there. So, MeUndies.com, go there right now, man, to support Fat Man and Batman. Okay, let's talk about something even more magical than underwears that arrive at your door once a month. And I'm talking about The Strange, son. Doctor Strange, man. This was a movie I was very excited to see because I've loved Doctor Strange going way back. I put Doctor Strange into my Daredevil run, the one I did with Joe Quesada, Guardian Devil, back in the day. We had a scene where he had to go to Bleecker Street to the Sanctum Sanctorum and shit like that. So this movie, man, they had to just say a few things. I'm in the bag for these movies, let's be honest. I'm not sitting here going critically thinking Doctor Strange, although it's a wonderful movie. I'm in the bag for these, man. The moment you start saying, like, Sanctum Sanctorum, when you start saying Eye of Agamotto, when you start saying what I've always thought was Dormammu and now we know is Dormammu, but I'm going to keep saying Dormammu because fuck it, I like it that way. Doctor Strange, man, came to life. The creation of Steve Ditko and later on Stan Lee brought to life writ large by Scott Derrickson on the big screen. If you've never heard the episode of Smoothie Makers podcast that I did with Scott Derrickson, sit down and listen to it. We did a few years back, long before I think Strange was in his future. I don't know, maybe it was just the beginning. Really sweet guy, talented dude, talented as fuck, as we saw from Strange this weekend, man, because he brought Ditko panels to life. When we went to the Dark Dimension, that shit looked like Ditko drawings writ large, man. The sling ring was a new addition, but I thought that was cool right away. I was just like, ooh, they should always have that. But come on, man. The cape as Groot, you know what I'm saying? Like the fun object in the movie that's a vis effect that helps one of the main characters. Some people would say it's kind of like more like his fucking Iron Man suit, don't you think, dude? Yes, I guess. But it had its own life. It was very Beauty and the Beast that way and stuff. But I love that edition of it, the Cloak of Levitation. I'm a big Doctor Strange fan, and they had every element that I wanted to see at play in this movie. Let's take it from the top. Benedict Cumberbatch did a wonderful job. We all knew he would the moment they cast him as Strange. And he brought that character to life, turned him sexy, turned Strange into a sexy character. The movie opened huge this weekend. So a lot of people like who before didn't know who Doctor Strange was, like, what's that? Now they know. They're like, oh, that's Benedict Cumberbatch. That's Sherlock. Sherlock in the Marvel Universe. Some people I've read reviews where they're like, this movie's just like Iron Man. It's just like another origin movie for Marvel. That's what I want out of these movies. I don't want it to be different. Like, I want my comic book movies as they come to the big screen, at least the first one, to play like an origin story, and it needs to have all the familiar beats and stuff. And yes, this one was familiar in as much as Tony Stark was kind of cocky, and then he's knocked down to size, and then he decides to become a hero. Same thing here. Hey man, that's a story in a lot of fucking stories. But that's what I want in my comic book origins. They did it justice and whatnot. They brought in people like the night nurse. They didn't call her night nurse and shit, but she was one of the 3 night nurses and stuff, Christine. They brought in Mordu. Come on, dude. What up? But made them buddies. So, like, you know, they kind of come up together a little bit. And they didn't make them just, like, evil. Like, in spoilers, in the end, you know, Tag, they kind of set it up for him going, there's too many sorcerers in this world. So he's going to be like a fucking sorcerer killer and shit. But they started as pals. Wong also started as a master. In the comics, generally, he's just kind of like his Alfred, his assistant to Doctor Strange in the Sanctum Sanctorum. But there he is as a master in this movie. The Ancient One is brilliantly played by Tilda Swinton. She's wonderful. Everything she does is fantastic, man. She's so smart. She's so ethereal. All the things they write about her and stuff. I met her once, man. It's crazy. I met her at a film festival. And fuck, in real life. You think like she has powers on screen. Meet her in real life, son. And she laughed at something I said. Try making Tilda Swinton laugh. Your heart will astrally project out of your body. It's like getting punched and watching your shit leave, just like they did in this movie. I love that sequence. I loved everything about this flick. I was so in the bag, man. You got to remember, when they mentioned, I think it was in like, what was it, Captain America, not Civil War, Captain America Winter Soldier movie? When they even mentioned, like, it's going to pick people out all over the world, like this motherfucker, this man, and they were like, Stephen Strange. I was like, Stephen Strange. So I was in the bag for this flick, and Scott Derrickson and the good folks at Marvel, Kevin Feige and whatnot, did not disappoint. They did not drop the ball by any stretch of the imagination. This is a perfect, strange, Doctor Strange origin movie for me. And based on the box office, seems like it might be for a lot of people as well. Let's go through it, shall we? As we saw in the trailer, Stephen Strange, brilliant surgeon, loses his, spoilers, going to be lots of spoilers in this, loses his ability to work with his hands, loses his hand jobs, if you will. No more hand jobs, because he gets in a bad accident, pretty harrowing accident, as shot incredibly well. And then, you know, can't do the thing he was made to do. That's what I like about this movie a lot. The less simple lesson of, it's not about you, dickhead. Rings resonates throughout the flick. Strange wants to get himself back. You know, he's like, who am I without the guy who can't operate and stuff? And you know, I thought about this as I was watching the movie. I was like, all right, you get in a car wreck and you can't do the thing that you're known to do, which for me would be using my fucking mouth. Some people be like, filmmaking? Like, no. Just being oral and whatnot with all these podcasts, standing on stage and speaking. Who would you be at that point? I'd be quiet. So, you know, put yourself in Stephen Strange's shoes. That's tough. What are you going to do for the rest of your life? It's like a hockey player who has to hang up the skates. It's like, hey, man, this is what you want to do your whole life. Now you can never do it anymore. What are you going to do for the rest of your life? Strange can't accept that. He wants to heal himself. And he meets a dude from Law & Order, from one of the better seasons of Law & Order, who's just like Benjamin Barrett, who's like, hey, man, like, you can heal yourself. I did it. I visited this place. And so Strange goes looking for it and finds it, or it finds him, as so often is the case, in movies like this particularly. And there he meets the Masters and the Ancient One, and learns that, yes, you can save people with more than just, you know, these hands. You know, check it out, dude. We can take you to the astral plane. And they do. This movie fucks with dimensional doors and shit. It's like Inception on coke in many places, like when the world starts folding in on itself. Oftentimes, like, you know, fucking sorcerer supremes will like fucking and change an environment just to trip a motherfucker, not even to kill him and shit like that. Blissful to look at, you know, is a wonder, sheer wonder, visually fucking interesting as fuck. But for me, just hearing certain things like Dormammu, hearing the Sanctum Sanctorum, seeing the address plate for the New York fucking house for the Sanctum, for like hearing somebody fucking say Eye of Agamotto, and it was like in a mainstream movie, shit like this, I was like, so fucking stiff. I love Rachel McAdams, and you know, she's wonderful in the flick. They didn't give her a bunch to do, but I like their scenes together. Her and Benedict Cumberbatch were wonderful. More of that in the future. I was sitting there going, are they going to call her night nurse? And they didn't. Seems like they're reserving that for Claire temple over in the TV universe or something like that, but never rule it out. This was a pure origin story that wraps up in, I thought, a kind of cool third act. Like, you know, Strange, like spoilers, Strange sacrificing himself, like Christ-like, if you will, over and over again to I ain't gonna say Dormammu, that sounds stupid, Dormammu. Motherfucker's like, just Dormammu? Oh, I love that sequence. And they killed him 1,000 different ways and stuck in a time loop and shit like that. I love the representation of spell casting in this flick. Spell casting in this flick. So did it for me, shit like that. I wish we lived in a world of motherfuckers like that. I do that in traffic all the time. Wish I could fucking make little hexes and defensive spells and shit like that. Really propulsion spells like speed the fuck up. You call that driving? What do you have, nowhere to be? I'm in Vancouver, obviously. So I loved Scott's representation of that with the spells. Caecilius, played by Mads Mikkelsen, I thought it was cool, and he had that one funny beat you see in the trailer where he's like, Strange Doctor, Mr. Strange, Mr. Doctor Strange. He goes, it's just strange. He goes, well, it's up to you, or whatever, shit like that. It was funny, but mostly, I thought I saw some people didn't like his eyes. I thought they were cool, because every time they went into a close-up, you could see the dark dimension in the eyes and shit. I thought that kind of shit looked badass. But it's watching characters that I've always loved come to life. Yet again, we've seen that time and time again, but done justice. This motherfucker's cloak of levitation, that whole sequence, I was rolling a tear, man. I was just like, ah! It's crazy we live in a world where Doctor Strange is a mainstream movie, man. Where my mom was like, oh, Tiger, I went to see Doctor Strange. Like, and not like I went to see Dr. Kailas, who told me that my adjutant, blah, blah, blah. She went to see a good doctor, man, in a movie theater and shit like that, and had a good ass time. So I love this movie. Let's see, what else can we talk about that I fucking love? Here, before me, let's just look up online before we get out of here. So in case I don't miss anybody, not do them justice or anything like that. Talked about Tilda Swinton, man. Chiwetel Ejiofor, I think I'm pronouncing that right. I thought it was a noble Mordo, but boy, oh boy, looks like he's going to be, well, we know he's going to, spoilers, we know Mordo's a bad guy and stuff, damn Mordo. But in this instance, we're kind of using an origin story to separate them. So what I like about it is just like Caecilius, his mission isn't like, I just want to be a prick. He believes he's doing justice. Caecilius is like, no, if we put ourselves into the dark dimension, we'll all live forever and shit like that. And the Ancient One's stealing fucking power from the dark dimension anyway. It's all a fucking house of cards and lies, Strange. So the notion that Mordo is also going to be like, hey, I'm not trying to be a prick, but like there are way too many fucking sorcerers, man, too many sorcerers, and start taking motherfuckers out, or at least taking away their magical abilities. I'm all for that. And I also want more Dormammu, man. I hope every movie has Dormammu. I don't give a shit if every Doctor Strange movie ended with the same third act, with him facing off against Dormammu. And I'm going to keep saying Dormammu. And I know I've been educated otherwise, but fuck it. I love that aspect of it, man. Like, you want to talk about self-sacrifice? Generally, the third act of these movies is like, let's, punch a fucking giant donut hole in the sky and fight it together. Let's fight the CG menace. And this true also was a CG menace, Dormammu, but in the I guess, boy, I ripped myself into a corner. But what I liked was, instead of punching his way out of it and stuff, he was prepared to, spoilers, he's prepared to live in this time loop forever, trapped with Dormammu, so he can't bring the dark dimension to Earth, or put Earth into the dark dimension. I thought that was some clever shit, man. I enjoyed the fuck out of this picture. I saw it in 40X. Do you ever see a 40X movie? Jesus Christ. This is going to sound like a commercial, but I got no stock in 40X. But a good idea is a good idea, man. Here, I'm just the same way I got no stock in fucking Doctor Strange, but like, here I am. Oh, fucking sanctum sanctorum over my face, neck, and chest. Taking it from the fucking one-eyed eye. All right, I've gone too far. As much as Strange rocked, seeing it in 40X, if you've never seen a movie in 40X, it's like, when you go to like Universal and like the Shrek ride or the Simpsons ride, motion ride, it's like that for the whole fucking movie. Even for simple shit, like when the Marvel logo is moving, your chair is moving and shit like that. And they blow air at you and water. And it snowed in my theater when he went to Nepal. Like, come on, man, that's fucking crazy. I think they got theaters in New York and Illinois and Chicago, of course, and Los Angeles. I think there's a few in other countries as well. Those are the three I know of in the States. If you could see it, if you could see any movie in 40X, except for a Kevin Smith movie, it'd be weird. Like, nothing ever happens. So all those weird effects and shit. Like, if their tires screeching, you smell burnt rubber. It is fucked up. It's fucked up and wonderful. So for Strange, when you were tripping through all those hallways, your chair is like, boom, and it's fluid. You know, it's not like, gung, 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 gung. It's a good fucking time. So I enjoyed the shit out of that. I got no stock in that company, but if you could fucking see a movie, particularly this movie, Doctor Strange in 40X, see it. Then my other caveat to that review is, this is not for everybody. Some people are like, look, you fat fuck, I enjoy life without the help of fucking anything else. I get high on life. I'm talking to the other people out there. I'm good for you people. I wish I could be like you. I admire you greatly. But for those of us who are degenerate stoners, get baked and see this movie. Oh my God. It's phenomenal, man. I was just baked as the day's long. And I was just like, number one, everything's better baked. Number two, this movie, as you go through dimensional realms, man, the multiverse, the Marvel multiverse, not gonna say it's making it better. Just gonna say it's definitely worth your time if you're inclined in that direction. All right, so there it is, man. My review of Doctor Strange. Scott Derrickson knocks it out the fucking park. I thought he was fantastic. Benedict Wong, we didn't talk about him as Wong. How ironic. He was funny as fuck, and of course has the movie's moment with the headphones and the Beyonce joke. Definitely worth your time, and Marvel does it again. Fucking, they could do nothing wrong. That's what I think. Anyway, there it is. That's my review for Fat Man, Batman. I'm Kevin Smith, man. What the fuck are you waiting for? Go see Doctor Strange.
Hey, boys and girls, it's me, Marc Bernardin, one of your fat men on the Batman. But today is going to be Fat Man on Strange, man. I saw Doctor Strange again. I had seen it before. I saw it at the premiere, surrounded by people who are far, far thinner than I am and miserable for it. But I'm pretty sure Kevin will either have already given you his thoughts on the Doctor Strange or will follow me. Either way, you're being sandwiched by awesome. So yes, the Doctor Strange. I like this movie. I don't love this movie, but I like it a lot. And actually, the second viewing sort of helped that for me. There are things that I like quite a bit about it. There are a couple things that I'm a little ambivalent towards, but we'll get there. We'll start with the good, because why not lead with the good? Benedict Cumberbatch kills it. He has just the right amount of kind of imperious haughtiness, that of like a mid-level imperial officer on a Death Star or some other sort of evil spaceship. So his kind of humbling as the movie goes on registers, I think. I wondered why he didn't just use his natural British accent. Like, there's no reason why Doctor Strange has to be American. He has to live in New York, that's for damn sure. But given that everybody else in the movie has accents and are killing it with those accents, every now and again you'll just hear the slip. And I kept wondering, why not just let him be British? That's totally fine. That'll work. The rest of the cast is great. Like, I will watch Chiwetel Ejiofor do almost anything in almost anything. I watched him in Kinky Boots, where he wore kinky boots. I watched him in Serenity. I watched him in Inside Man. I will see that dude do almost anything. Mads Mikkelsen is great. I love him as a villain. There's a real sort of emotion to that, and you get why he is the way he is. I feel like the special effects in this movie are about as good as I've seen in any Marvel movie, if not better. Like, I feel like they spent the money in a way that they haven't before. And all of the kind of magic-y, inception-y, like everything's floating in on itself and everybody's running on ceilings and walls and all of that shit works really, really well. I do feel that they sort of indulge themselves one too many times with that. Like, once, twice, I get it. It's cool. It's super cool. There's the third sequence where it just got a little bit, we're doing it for its own sake. Like, look what we can do, you guys. We're going to do it a lot. I didn't need them to be doing it a lot. But that final set piece, that whole like backwards time rebuilding that cityscape in Hong Kong, and then fighting inside a backwards unfolding city, like I've never seen that before. And that's astounding. And I feel like it's an origin story for sure. And it does all the things that an origin story does. And it dispatches with enough of it. The stuff that you have to have, it does pretty gracefully. The stuff that's kind of new and interesting, it gives some time to breathe. The one thing story-wise that I was a little that I wanted more of was, like, they set up this whole idea in the beginning of the movie that Doctor Strange is an asshole, and he's an asshole because he's so self-centered and so egotistic. And everybody tells him that, and everybody tells him that that's his problem. And it's abundantly clear that the reason why he and Dr. Christine Palmer's relationship, played by Rachel McAdams, didn't work out was because he's an asshole, which you totally buy. The thing that I wanted to see by the end of that movie was the scene in which she sees him be self-sacrificing. She sees him be the man that she always hoped it would be. They hoped he would be. I mean, you get him, like, you know, in all of his magic doctor robes, showing up in the hospital and doing all kinds of cool stuff and astral projecting and saving other people's lives, and you get all that stuff. But I wanted the giant, grand, like, she's beholding him be the better man for everybody. She's watching him sacrifice himself, and his sacrifice at the end of the movie, where he's willing to, spoilers, I'm assuming you guys have seen this by now, but where he is willing to subject himself to an eternity of torture to keep Dormammu in that same temporal prison with him. It's a great sacrifice, and it works really well, and I like that. I like that he's losing, but he's willing to lose forever to save everybody else. That's awesome. I wish somebody else saw that. I wish somebody else could know that. I wish somebody else felt his pain for having done that, so that people could know that he was the man he could be, that he's living up to his potential. For all those reasons, like, I think it's a really, really solid movie. I feel like the whole Ancient One business, which we've talked about before, like, I've written on it, it's out there in the world, the idea that the Ancient One, written as a Tibetan man in the comics, is now played by Tilda Swinton, who is an amazing actress. Like, nobody does sort of ethereal otherness quite like she does. I feel like the Ancient One it's one of those, like, landmines where there's almost no graceful way to step around it. You're kind of going to get blown up and caught in the blast if you do the Ancient One, because either you recast it with somebody who is not Asian to alleviate the weird, like, Orientalism of the Ancient One, but then you're whitewashing away a role that could have gone to an Asian actor, an amazing Asian actor, and a good writer could absolutely write a great version of the Ancient One. But if you cast an Asian actor, then you have all of that, like, you know, ancient Chinese secret, fortune cookie storytelling, like, all of those horrible things that had been behested upon Asian actors doing that kind of mysticism in Hollywood for decades. But I feel like there was a way to do it. Even there's a way to do it so that you get to keep Tilda Swinton and you get to keep all of that stuff. And I feel like they kind of towed up against this line but didn't cross it. But the idea that maybe the Ancient One reincarnates every 100 years. Maybe there's a world in which there have been a dozen Ancient Ones, and each Ancient One is from a different place, is a different sex, is a different race. And so this one happens to be Tilda Swinton. The last one could have been, you know, James Hong. The next one could be Dakota Fanning. Like, it kind of doesn't matter. Like, I feel like there's a way to make that character, just encode it Doctor Who style, so that it's the same person, but it's a different person, and each person brings with them something else. And so that way you get your cake and you get to eat it too. They didn't do that, and that's fine. Like, every filmmaker makes his own choices, and they live or die by them. And I feel like ultimately Scott Derrickson made the choices he believed in, and I feel like the movie, by and large, lives by those choices. It doesn't die by very much of anything. I do wish that, you know, Rachel McAdams' character had a little bit more to do than to be the impetus for Stephen Strange to remember the person he's supposed to be, that kind of stock female role of by the end of the third act, by the end of the second act, being the nudge to make the hero remember he's supposed to be heroic. But I think, like, the movie does quite a lot well. It is not my favorite Marvel movie. It is definitely in the upper tier of them. It's in, like, the top third. It is not, as I like to call it, one of the two Marvel movies that have twos in the title, kind of, that don't really work very well, being Iron Man 2 and Thor 2, The Dark World. Neither of them seem to be overwhelmingly inspired films. Iron Man 2 was basically Iron Man 1 with birds. And then Thor, The Dark World suffers from too much Loki and not enough whatever that other guy's name was. So you don't actually have an antagonist for Thor. You just kind of have this weird tour through metaphysical. Setting up the ether is all that movie does, and it doesn't even do it very well. But and this movie isn't for me quite as fun as, say, Guardians or Ant-Man. The other two, like, just out of left field standalone Marvel movies. Both of those sort of brought a different flavor to it, and this absolutely. I mean, magic and mysticism and fantasy is all its own flavor, and that's great. But I kind of just I wish that it hadn't been quite so like Heroes Questy and a little bit more lived in. Like Ant-Man has some of those bits, but it's a heist movie at its heart. Like Guardians has some of those bits, but it's a space opera at its heart. Like this feels a little bit more traditional heroic journey, and that's fine. That's fine. I again cannot fault a movie for what it is, and I cannot pretend to critique the movie that I want to exist. Though I'll do it all the time. You know I will. I'm the worst that way. But hey, listen, you heard what I thought. You will or have already heard what Kevin thought. Go see it. Tell us what you thought. Find us on the internets. You know where we are. I'm at Marc Bernardin on Twitter. Kevin is at that Kevin Smith on the Kevin Smiths. Leave the comments below down there on the YouTube page and just let us know what you thought. Because I think it's always interesting when Marvel stretches their wings a little bit, when they try and do something that they are not known for doing, and there's always some tension on the edges. But ultimately, I think it's good for both Marvel. It's good for the audience, and it's good for comics, man. It's good for the shit that we love, that it exists in such a grand fashion. So yeah, listen. And before I go, I want to tell you a little bit about my favorite new thing. And, you can't see me kind of dancing in my seat because I'm so happy about it. But MeUndies.com is a sponsor now for the fancy show, for the fancy fat man of the Batmans. And they say clothes make the man, but you feel like a goddamn superhero wearing these underpants, because nothing has quite cradled you the way these underpants will cradle you. I'm just saying. It's kind of like your favorite person's hands just cupping your butt all day long, man. It's the best. So you should go to MeUndies.com. Go to MeUndies.com/fatman. Enter the fatman code, and you get 20% off your first order. You don't like them, send them back. They will refund you and let you keep that first pair of underpants. So listen, give it a try. You will kind of fall in love with them in a big bad way. The kind of falling in love that you might need to talk to somebody about. But it doesn't matter because it feels so good. So yes, MeUndies.com/fatman. Give it a go. Fatman on Batman and blah, 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 blah. This is Marc Bernardin signing off. Y'all be good. Take it easy.